Hi. Well, here you are. How you doing tonight? A lot of people ask, where you been? Well, I've been working. We're working on a bunch of CDs. We're going to put all these things together and put them on a CD for you guys. Anyway, some people have written in, actually a lot do, and they want to know, what does Sun in Taurus mean? Saturn in Gemini? What does Libra rising mean? Well, that's what it means. It means that the Sun's in Taurus, Saturn's in Gemini, Libra's rising. That's it. You can't go much further than that. A lot of people would try to move that towards something else, but you really can't. The big fallacy with astrology is that if there's a planet in a sign, you know all about that. Not true. A sign, literally, is like a huge organization. It's industrial steel. It's Macy's department store. A sign has everything going for it. So you need to understand this. To understand it correctly, we call that its dignity. Now, what is a dignity? Planets have light. And when that light is shining, you see it very clearly, because at night you can see a light no matter how far it is off to the horizon. You can see it. Up to 20 miles anyway. But planets have light. And that light shines brighter in some areas than it does in others. And this is what we need to understand when we look at dignities in a sign. Planetary dignities in their sign is what astrology is about. It really is. If you cannot do dignities or you don't know anything about them, you really don't know about astrology that well. You're just sort of looking at a chart and making stuff up that you maybe read on a paragraph up the street or something. Don't do that. Let's take Aries, for example. Okay? Aries is ruled by Mars. In other words, Mars owns Aries. It is the CEO owner. Most powerful position you can put Aries and Mars together. Mars rules Aries. That's what it means. Any planet in its own ruling sign rules it. Absolutely. Everything that comes under that power is under the power of that particular ruler. It rules it. That's the end of it. Okay. So that's where it's most powerful. Now, each sign may have or may not have what we call an exaltation point. Aries does. The first day of spring, when the sun goes into Aries, it's in its exaltation, because that is where the sun is most likely to be who the sun is in Aries. It's full of promise. It's full of spring. It's absolute spring is coming upon us. Everybody's hopeful that the crops are going to be wonderful and the harvest is going to be great. There's a great deal of bustle. Everything's getting warm and moist and growing, and it's just a beautiful time of year. Well, that's what the sun is doing in Aries, because it rules Leo, which maintains the summer, the heat, and the warmth, and the fun, and the games that we do in Leo. But when it first enters into spring, it promises that coming down the line. So the sun here is exalted. You see, it's an exaltation. It's a dignity, in a way. So if Aries department store was expecting Paris Hilton, she would be treated like a real exalted dignity. She would be giving more favor than the rest of the people that are coming in there, and she would be given more than what she's due, because she's going to be a big customer. She's going to bring with her all kinds of things. You see what I'm saying? So it's a dignity. It's a strong exaltation. Now, just after that, we have what we call the triplicities. Now, the triplicities are like the underlings of the owner. They are the executive officers who make sure that Aries runs correctly. The business of Aries is running correctly. And how that works is that in the daytime, it's the sun. The sun is a daytime triplicity, and Jupiter is nighttime. So you see this how this is working? So we now have a day-night segment of the sign. You see, you didn't know that. Now, when we see that the sun is there, and we're looking at the sun and its exaltation, suddenly we see that the sun's emphasized. So we see a stronger light here. So we see that the planet is vibrating a little bit more stronger in somebody's chart. If it's nighttime, well, then Jupiter is vibrating a little more strongly, because it's the triplicity ruler. And so we want to see what Jupiter's doing. You get the picture? Now, after that, we have what we call the terms. There are 5 terms in a sign, and they run 6 degrees to 8 degrees in the beginning, and then 8 to 13 to 16, and then from 16 to 20, and then from 20 to 25, and 25 to 30. Each one is different, but that's a general idea. So each sign has 5 terms, and in those terms, you're going to have different situations. For instance, you're going to have the first 6 degrees of Aries is Jupiter. Then the next 6 degrees is going to be Venus. And after that's Mercury, then Mars and Saturn. So you're going to see that these work out this way. when a planet goes through the sign, he's going to be under the department head of that term, because the terms are like the 5 different departments in this major Aries store that we're in. We're either going to shop in one of the terms, or maybe all of them, but we're going to shop in one at a time. You see what's going on? So they're like departments. So the terms are then like departments. It's pretty cool, right? After that, we have what we call their face. Now the face is weaker. It's three signs fit in the face. It's each 10-degree segment. Now I know what you're thinking of. It's like the other triplicities of the trigon, but no, it's different. It's a different term. Anyway, the face of the planet is by 10-degree segments, and they're not really all that hip. They're the people who work here. They come for the paycheck, you know, and they don't care if there's no stock. I'm sorry, we're out, because that's up to the CEO and the triplicity runners of the store. So here you're looking at the face of the planets, and they're they yawn. They show up for the work, and they do their job, and they collect the paycheck and go home. They don't care if the business runs or not. They just care if they have a job. It's just going on. After that, we have the fall. Now Saturn in Aries is in its fall. So when we see this, what does that mean? Well, the fall means it can be somewhat damaging, because it's not really the best place you can put Saturn. Aries is dynamic. It wants to go. It wants to get things. It wants to get out there and finish the job and move on to the next situation. But however, Saturn is very slow. It takes a long time to go through a sign, 2.5 years. So when Saturn goes in here, you can see why it's in its fall. It's hurting. It's hurting Aries. Everything Aries wants to do is frustrated, because Saturn wants to take its time. It wants to go through it. It's like the IRS coming in for an audit, right? Saturn's going to look it over and go, oh my God, what about this book? What about that book? Meanwhile, the business is suffering because they're busy with Saturn being so damn slow and taking the time. So it's going, all right. Venus is in detriment to Aries, because Venus is a very wonderful, loving, fun-filled sign. It's all a planet. It's all about fun. It's all about entertainment. And when you get into Aries, the entertainment is quick bang, run, zip, run out. And so you don't have time to really languishly enjoy the entertainment that the department store has. You go in, get your thing, you get out. You might look at some of the stuff that's pretty and all that's in there, but it's not all that cool. So that planet is more like the people who go there at night to clean up the place. They're there just to take care of business. They don't care if the building is even there, much less the business. So that's a planet way down in its detriment. So you see that there's a lot of things that each planet will do in a sign when it travels. So when somebody asks you, what does that mean? Well, you have to find out. Where is it? Where is it in the sign? Is it part of the triplicity? Is it part of the exaltation? Is it part of the term? Is it in its fall? Does it good care less? Detriment? I hate it. What's it doing in this sign? What can it do in this sign? How big is the light? Because the further down the scale we get, the less the light. You see, the term people got some light, and the face people hardly any. But when you get down to fall and detriment, you're striking matches in the cellar, because there is no light. You see how that works? Also, the accidental dignity. What house is it in? Is it in the 1st house, 10th house? Really strong light. If it's in the 8th, 6th, or 12th house, it sucks. There's no light. Can't do anything. It's locked away. You can't do much in those houses. Those are poor houses. They don't operate well. The Senate don't see them. Give dignities a try. You need to understand them in order to be a good astrologer.